apologize. Alright, marksman. I don't have marksmans, but I think, yeah, Jin is a marksman now, so I could build that up. Oh no! Okay. That's interesting. Ooh, actually, that Renekton would have been good. Oh, I should have gotten the Leona. Rip. We're gonna do this just for kind of shits and giggles. I don't think I want a Zed out there though. Come on. Oh no. Not doing too good now. Here's my Leona.
What could this combo mean?
Some other bronze. There she is. Okay, that's what I was looking for.
Keep an eye on that one, folks.
Get him! Get him! I did. Alright. We just eliminated the fourth player. Okay, Rost. Another Elise. Okay. Yeah, he's a Bastion. Dang. I could have probably had a tier 3 Senna by now. It's a little disappointing. Alright. Let's get the Jarvan. Yeah, I should have gotten Senna. I could have probably almost had a tier 3 Senna. Oh no! I didn't have enough. Alright, well. Oh my gosh, what are you doing? Come on, get that Renekton. It's destroying you. Oh my gosh, just took forever to get through their front line. The heck was that? Alright, who's the closest? We have a couple. We got a second set of Brahms. We don't have a lot of Jins. We have a couple Ross and a couple Elises. And then like singles of every other. Who's that? Kabuko? Yeah. Good. How he's gonna kill someone. There we go.
Team wraps up a win.
A Kabuko! Oh, he's a bruiser though. Don't really fit in my camp, bruh. Because if I could switch Grokkus out for Renekton, he's a Divine Corp as well too, I think. Yeah. Wow. I think let's try and level up Braum. Let's get one more Braum and then we can use our champion duplicator to get him to 2 or 3. Assuming I survive long enough. No, get that fucking brand. Don't let him cast. Thank you. No. Oh my gosh, by 1. Oh, I have 1 left. Oh no. No. God of the net. We'll try and get the Dragon's Claw for Braum. I'm gonna try something here. Be a bit different. My bench is full, huh?
I love a challenge.
Get the brand. No, you let him cast again. Fucking. Oh well, we got second place. That was pretty good for second place. So, good fight. Alright, cool. Well, that's that. I think we're gonna switch over now. Let's see here. I'm gonna switch over and get my stuff up. For the game dev stuff, and I'll switch my stream over as well too to that. So some stuff up here. I need this one. All right. Let me. I need to figure out how to share this again. Video game, video capture device. What is it under? Screen capture. Is this the one I need? Let me change it. Hopefully you can see that. All right, cool. Awesome. So I guess first outside of this, I want to address a question. I think it was on my LinkedIn I saw this morning. Let me just see if I can pull it up really quickly here. No, I'm not going to pull it up on screen, but I may put it in the edit, because I may edit a clip for this, just because it'll be probably something that especially a lot of grads, young people trying to get into the industry have been asking. Trying to pull it up here. So I'll reach out to him, and if he's okay with me like disclosing his question like publicly while I go over this, I may do that. So his question is, let's see. Hey Ian, so quick question. How do you get started in the game development industry? Any advice for a fresh graduate? I've been getting rejected by every job I apply for almost entirely and don't even get an interview. Yeah, it's this industry is, and I think some other industries are the same, unless it's like a trade job type of thing where you learn, like electrician or maybe construction or anything like that and stuff. This is one of those type of industries that is hard to break into but easy to move around once you're in, and like assuming you do a good job and you put in the work and stuff, like you'll make a lot of allies. Now even with me being out of work right now, that's proven to be hard. Of course, being a strong extrovert in the game space and like really selling myself hasn't been my strongest suit or my forte. I'm an extrovert on a team to help them deliver things, and that's what I love to do. And I wouldn't say I'm forced to do it just because of the job, but that job territory comes with like lots of other things that bring enjoyment to both my career and my life, which is why I love doing it. But anyway, back to the question here. I think if you go to people and stuff, they'll tell you that they entered the game industry very differently depending on who you talk to. You have artists, programmers, even some designers, some aspect, and then like other sub-disciplines off of that, like tech art and whatever and stuff. It's a lot easier for them to break into the industry because they can show a portfolio, right? They can cater their portfolio to or show code, or hey, I built or I coded an app and here's what it does. Here are the constraints I had. Here's how long it took me to build it. Here are the technology things that I use in order to build this, and they can show that and stuff. And based on that, they'll be like, well, how do you think about problems and scenarios and whatever and stuff? And they'll be like, you're hired, type of thing. Or, yeah, we don't think you got the chops to deal with our legacy code or the new thing we're building or whatever, even as an intern. So portfolios are very different for those disciplines compared to producers and even QA. Now, there's stuff you can still show in QA and production, like kind of like what I'm showing you all right now in terms of like exercises a lot of studios and game projects use, some of the thinking and how that partners with these other roles at a game studio. But yeah, if you were to go to anyone, I guarantee that you might find some similarities on how they got into the industry, but no one's exactly going to be the same. You kind of got to find your own way. And I know that's not very encouraging in terms of a straight line answer into the industry, but that's just kind of how it is, and that's how it has been since I've been in it as well too. Like I remember listening to Chris Metzen and his story on how he got into the industry. He's like, yeah, I saw the clipping in a newspaper, and they were looking for, I think, artists or something like that, or drawers and stuff. And he's like, yeah, that sounds cool and stuff. I'll do that and stuff. And went in and showed that he could draw, and he got hired right there on the spot. Like, it's definitely not like that anymore. Chris Metzen is the executive senior director for World of Warcraft, if you didn't know, but he originally created or helped create like the World of Warcraft and some of those franchises and stuff that a lot of us have probably played or at least know. So yeah, I would say, like, if you're a graduate, I think I missed out on this as well too, but I really missed out on the opportunity for a internship. Not that I had one secured and I didn't take it type of thing, but I wish I would have been more ready and taken advantage of it. I was just kind of so focused on my studies that, like, I was like, no, I'll just do really good in school and then I'll get hired in the industry. Well, it kind of worked like that, but it worked differently than I thought it would. I started out in QA, so I'll just kind of tell you my journey. I got started in QA. I did really good in college, where one of my directors and one of my professors worked at Sony and also Crystal Dynamics, and I actually started in QA. They referred me, and I got my word in and stuff like that. And before that, I was doing modding, and I was doing I lived in the California Bay Area as well too, and so like Electronic Arts headquarters was there, and Sony and Crystal Dynamics and some other studios. And so like anytime they had like an on-site like playtest, which was, you usually either didn't get really compensated for, or you got a very small amount, or they would give you like a free game of your choosing under their publishing umbrella type of thing. Like EA would give you like a game of your choosing or something like that. So it wasn't much, but it allowed me to put that work or volunteer work, or however you want to frame it, on my resume, to where it helped me get in front of a recruiter for Sony, and then the referral as well too from my professor and my director, and that's actually what helped me get in. So it helped being at a very prominent school with teachers who who were working in the industry and either doing classes in their spare time or over the weekends or during the night as well too. So basically for a while there, I was working in QA. What was it? I was doing format QA for Sony. That was my first job, essentially. But that office I don't think exists in the US anymore. I know the office in Foster City does, but what they do there has changed significantly since I've been there. I think they've moved all of that work to Europe or something like that. I don't actually know. And then after that, I did that for a little bit, and then Crystal Dynamics was looking for people to help ship the Tomb Raider reboot. And so I actually jumped on that and learned quite a bit from a friend that I still have, and he was kind of my first mentor as well too, where I learned a lot at Crystal Dynamics shipping Tomb Raider. And then it just kind of like went from there, and that was a contract, so I knew that wasn't full time, but it kind of led to another thing and another thing, and just kept kind of going from there. So, and that was right after like the recession from like 2008 to 2011, 12 and stuff. So I came in at a pretty good time in the game industry, and at that time things were tight in the game industry, but they weren't as bad as they are now. Like, because usually what do people do when, or at least back in that time during the previous recession, what they do? They would stop going out, they would stop eating out, they would, I don't know, maybe stop partying or whatever and stuff, but you saw in a lot of the data and stuff that people would play more games during a recession because it was actually cheaper. Now, I think things have changed a lot, especially with free to play and some of the monetization that we have in games these days, where it's probably not cheaper if you can't control that, or if you're playing a game that really is trying to amplify pay to win and stuff. So, that's kind of a long-winded answer. From there, like, I knew that I wanted to get into production. Like, even at Crystal Dynamics and stuff, I saw how producers worked, and I was like, hey, I could do that. And other people were like, yeah, you work really well on a team and whatever, you should think about becoming a producer. I was like, what the heck is that? And stuff. And I didn't know while I was going to school there wasn't a track or whatever for game production at that point, but now there's lots of resources. Well, I wouldn't say there's a lot, but there's a lot more resources than there was when I was going to college. So yeah, short answer is keep going though. In terms of applying, something will pull through. I think it's going to be a lot harder if you've had no experience as a fresh graduate. But keep doing it in your spare time. That's why I'm doing these streams as well too, because it helps kind of showcase in terms of like a video portfolio of what I know. And so I think if you can do something like that and do it as a part of your application, because a lot of places where you apply to, they'll be like, do you have experience? No. But in my volunteer work, in my spare time, here is a video I uploaded of me talking about agile methodology or priority matrices or something like that. And so I think the big thing is be creative to get in front of recruiters. Go above and beyond, because you're going to have to stand out in this swarm of people looking for work, but also people looking like yourself, looking to break into the industry. So kind of like me, I'm just keeping at it as well too. The only difference for me is before I was working like 40 to 60 hours a week and have about 13 years of experience under my belt. So you'll get there. If it's something that you really want to work in games, just know that depending on also what you want to do as well too, if you do want to do production, or if it's some other aspect, just know that it's gonna be. We're trying to get better at this, but especially when I started, it was not good in terms of work-life balance at all, and that's not something that you should expect. It's going to be a lot of long hours, and especially if you're in an expensive area, you're going to need those hours as well too in order to survive. So, like me, I was working pretty cheaply for Blizzard. Let's just say my spouse at the time was not happy about it with how much salary cut I took from my previous job. But that's also because I was working like 90 hours a week. And at Blizzard, I was taking all the overtime I could just to survive. Because that's how much I was getting paid. So, so I don't say that to discourage it, but I'm more of a real person. I'm very upfront, just so you know what you're getting yourself into. So, yeah, it doesn't say here what your profession is here. So, or what you're going into, but yeah, take that for what it's worth. Showcase your work as much as you can. Provide a way to get that as a supplemental information to a recruiter or anything like that, because that's going to be most valuable. So, anyway, oh, and would I do something different? I think in hindsight, I did really enjoy my school and the things I've learned. I think it's grossly overpriced though. In hindsight, I would not do it again with all the resources that are out there right now. I would not go to a college again. In hindsight, I would probably take out like a $10,000 or $15,000 loan, if anything, myself, and use it to buy some courses or some basic level things in terms of like agile fundamentals, or there's lots of like people who work in the industry and whatever profession you want to go to, they'll have tutorials or I don't know, podcasts or other things that are paid as well too, that I think those are more valuable because, and I wouldn't necessarily say go to one, like you probably want, because they all may have some different perspective and something different to say as well too. And I think going for one is maybe too pitted. So, and even for me, it's like you're listening to one person here speak on their experience and stuff, but like I said before, my experience is different from every other. So talk to a lot of different, if you want to be a producer, try and reach out to a lot of different producers on how they broke in to the industry and stuff. And then you can kind of get a pool of data and stuff on maybe what makes sense for you and the lens that you're trying to break in. So, but yeah, I would definitely not. I would take out a small loan, probably. And I think the biggest thing for those loans, a lot of stuff is pretty cheap in terms of programs that you can buy, start to experiment with. I think Monday has a free trial. Not the day Monday. There is a software for like project management called Monday. Favreau has a free trial or a free version, I think, as well too. That's kind of like Trello. Um, and Trello is more like Kanban and stuff, but Trello is not owned by Atlassian, which owns Jira and stuff. Jira is probably the most common in the industry unless you work for Microsoft. Then it's Azure DevOps. Um, so like I like start exploring with like programs and stuff like that. If you're an artist, get into ZBrush, get into Substance Painter, get into like whatever you need to for the type of area you want to focus on in art. If you're a programmer, definitely like Visual Studio and GitHub and different stuff like that. Programming languages, engines, you name it. If it's design, I think you could probably do a lot with Favro or Figma. I think probably Miro is probably not Favro. Miro is the one I want to talk for design because Miro is pretty good for mind mapping. Like even places like Electronic Arts, we used Miro a lot to go over like mood boards and design mapping, like mind mapping and stuff like that. So, which is something that I'll probably do here at some point. So, like, yeah, I would just like explore those, try and use free versions if you can. If not, like, that's what the loan would help pay for. The other part of the loan that would be most valuable, I think, is go to PAX West, go to PAX East, go to the Game Developers Conference, go to game conventions, start networking, start meeting people. They have recruiters that go to those, and even review portfolios at GDC, BlizzCon. If you're an artist and stuff, I know they have a lot of art recruiters there and stuff to, if you really want to work at Blizzard or something like that, they have recruiters there for that. So like, that's what I would use the small loan for, is to actually go use that for cost for travel and hotel booking and stuff like that, so that you can get yourself out there and network. And that's how I would kind of do it these days. And then I would just self-learn through everything. So that's kind of how I would probably do it differently. But again, it's all hindsight 2020, right? So coulda, shoulda, woulda. Because like right now I'm still paying off my student loans, and I graduated in 2014. So yeah, take that as you will. Anyway, let's get on to game development stuff. So all right. I'm gonna have to get a water, I think. All right, so where were we at last time? I think we were talking about option 2 here, which is why it's in green. We were talking about concept as well too for the game design framework. We talked a little bit about Moscow in terms of a priority matrix. Let's see here. Oh, okay. Yeah, this was the project that we were working on. Okay, I think I created this one off stream. Because I was going to move stuff around, I think. Oh, I think it was this that I was going to move around. So I'm just going to kind of move this here for now. Okay, one. All right. Because we'll go over that a bit more later. So let's see here. So I think what we need at this point, we started talking about this, we started talking about the GDD as well too, right? Yeah, we started going over some of the basics of this. We talked about monetization last time, some of the technology, some of the AI stuff that we want to implement as a part of this. What was this? Okay. So we need a little bit more kind of uh, ability, because this is going to be one of kind of the staples in the design here. I think like this will be one of the selling points, essentially, um, and not necessarily to like a player selling point. Um, I think the biggest example of this that I can use that this is going to relate to is if you've played uh, Shadow of Mordor or those games from um, the Warner Brothers studio that just got shut down. But basically, they patented the Nemesis system, and it was kind of like it would learn from you, type of thing. So this is kind of like that, but it's taking. I want this to take more of a large form and not just like a one game impact. It would have sequential impact. And I don't know whether this would be like more of a persistent universe or if this would be something that would be more like this happens in a session, but it remembers the previous session of what happened or how you acted or whatever, and then it learns from that type of thing. So or it's like, or it has like options to do where it's like, hey, I know how you act and how you play type of thing, and or how you have played the last 3 times. What do I think you're going to do now? And I'm going to use this type of procedural generation to, which is based on parameters and templates anyway, right? So but it gives enough variation to the player to where it keeps things interesting, right? Because I think here in single player games, like people usually play it once and then they're done, type of thing, right? Now for RPGs, you don't. At least for me, like I don't usually finish everything in a game. I'm not like those. I'm not 100% completionist type of thing, but I know there are those players out there, right? So it's like, and like, okay, there's 200-hour RPGs and stuff. Like, that's a long time to finish everything. Or you have like small short stories, um, indie games. I'm trying to think of some other games. I think you probably have like Uncharted 4 or something like that, which is probably around like, how long was that campaign? 30 hours or something like that? 40 hours maybe? I can't remember, but um, you have small experiences like that, which I'm not saying is bad and stuff. Like maybe we want this to be that, and I don't think I want this game to be long either and stuff, just because that's not really what the gaming market is like right now, at least in my opinion. Like my age of gamers, like in their 30s, 40s, even mid to late 20s or something like that, um, I feel like our, not attention span, but I think there's so many other things grabbing our attention, like social media, family, friends, uh, TV, TV shows, streaming, accessibility to that stuff. There's just so many other things pulling our attention away where being deeply immersed in a game is not like it used to be, which is also why, and not just that, but there's this need for like instant gratification as well too, which is why you see like real-time strategy games have died. um, and so this needs to be accessible. Sorry, I want this game to be accessible for that reason, where someone can just pick it up and go, and then have a match for 20 minutes and be done, type of thing. So, which is kind of why I like Teamfight Tactics, because their rounds are a bit longer, actually, like especially if you're winning. But if you're short, or if it's short and you're dying, if you're short, if it's short and you're dying and stuff, like matches could be like 15 minutes. If you're winning and you win a game, they could be like 35, 40 minutes. And so like I think 40 minutes is getting kind of long, type of thing, which is why you see some people during the game AFK. So I think like we need to think here about, in the context of the game here, we're talking about Battlefield. In terms of kind of that genre, this is Project Battlefield 1944, right? And maybe I'll actually just put it up here. What did we say this is? This is a... late... Oh, wrong tab. Paste isometric um, played solo or with your friends. This will allow the core pillars of this game uses AI agents to I think let's leave this open for now and we'll close it later. Let me actually make this bigger too so you can see it. It's a little tiny. All right. Actually, I think if we're doing that, I think if we were to do the squad control, we do that in a separate game. So I think all of this would be automated because it cuts out scope as well too. Because if I'm adding controls for squad and stuff, then I have to add mechanics for that. I have to add UI for that. I'd have to, like, if we cut all of that out, we're just doing the UI and stuff for the environment control and the tools for that, and not having to do player control characters and cameras and all that other stuff for that, which I know is more. So, okay. Three principles. So, I'm just outlining three right now, and I want to actually take a step out for a sec here. Now, usually something like this is done by a couple different lenses, right? Usually, especially at larger studios I've been at, you'll have the creative director. If it's an established franchise, um, usually you'll have design creative director work together on the next entry into a series, or and they'll corroborate with, like, hey, what do we want to do creatively, what fits in the franchise, is this a brand new game entirely in a different franchise, what are our players asking feedback for, where we do the same type of game but we act on the feedback, what is our data saying, do the monetization numbers look good and stuff, to where we can make this better type of thing, or do we need to change these things so that this project can be more successful by the different numbers we're looking at, right? So usually I've been a part of these pitches here, but usually it's a team effort, like on a small team of 3, 4, 5 max of us that have been doing this. So me doing it myself and not able to bounce ideas off of other people is, I would say, the difficult part, because I'm just thinking, like, there's an aspect here to where it's like I don't have to think about other input and stuff. I can just kind of go with my ideas, and you all are just kind of observing. Whereas, like, if, man, maybe one day if we become big and stuff, I'll have chat determine what the design is. Wouldn't that be some stuff? Then we make a Twitch game, or a game from Twitch. um, but yeah, usually there's a small group of people, or very rarely it's one person involved in that. Usually this is a design with people who are more creative than I and stuff, that come up with these ideas, and not to say that they can't come from anyone on the team, but usually they're the ones driving it and stuff. Like, we've gotten ideas and pitches from QA, from marketing, from customer service team members, from like you name it. Like everyone's got ideas, right? And so I think a lot of it is coming down to like, okay, how do we think this through? What does this look like? Does this fit within the expertise of the team? Is this not a right fit because of the company or where we want to go with this company or whatever and stuff? And so there's a lot of different things that come into play for these type of things, but you just kind of never know. So what I'm trying to say here in a long-winded form, because that's how I do, is I'm not used to this. Just doing it myself and stuff. So, but there's also a lot to think about as well too if I'm actually wanting to be serious about this and actually pitch this to something like an investor in the future, which if it's based on the Battlefield franchise, I don't know if I could do because EA owns those rights. So I would have to probably directly pitch this to EA actually. And then they would have to like take it on as a project, and it would have to be under the EA umbrella type of thing, or at minimum it would have to be under their publishing label, right? So so yeah, these are not the things that I've flexed my muscles at in terms of like muscle memory to do these. So going through this again and stuff is not just good for me, but when I'm showing all of you kind of what goes down on a basic level, but and then all the things to think about as well too. But it helps me remove some of that rust too, being able to do it myself and walk through it. So so let me get into this here of why I'm saying 3 principles right now. It doesn't have to be 3. Like, I think 3 is the max I want to go, though, and it may even be 2 core principles to this game in terms of, like, what are the staples? Like, what, I remember, like, when we worked on Anthem and stuff, like, we wanted people to feel really good in the suits, the javelins. They needed to feel like fucking heroes in those. And I think we nailed that, right? Like, we even had like 3 core pillars on Anthem as well too. One was the superhero pillar, very fitting to what I just said, right? And I was one of the co-leads for that pillar as well too. On the I led that from a QA side, but there were other leads on there that were helping drive that pillar as well too. So there's the superhero pillar, there's the technology pillar. I think it was technology or it was online services or something like that. And then the third one was world and narrative, right? So world and narrative was like everything to do with the story, the quests, the world and stuff. And I think not just how it looked and stuff, but how it felt when people were questing together and stuff like that. So I had a lot of the gameplay, the gunplay, the javelins, how did they look in combat, all the VFX for that. And so VFX team was a part of that, audio team was a part of that. I even had my purview was also under the store as well too, the customization for the javelins, all that type of stuff. So pretty much anything to do with gameplay and the javelins and stuff was me. So and so those were kind of our 3 like main core pillars. Now there were different principles in terms of the creative vision and whatever and stuff that we had as well too. And when we're having these core principles, these core pillars and stuff, the decisions we're making as we're going along need to tie to those pillars. Otherwise, because one, it keeps production accountable. And so like, it's like, and what I mean by this is like, if team members are like, hey, we should do this, and we're like, hey, we want to change how the loot works here, and it's like, okay, but that doesn't go with how, with our pillar and the principles that we had from the creative vision from that, which the creative vision usually comes from the creative director, um, or art director, or both. And so it's like, well, that doesn't, well, and so the producer would be like, why are we doing this? How does that satisfy a player need in terms of what's been outlined in the GDD, the game design doc, or the creative vision? If it doesn't, and it needs to be escalated, then that producer needs to either talk to leadership, or they need to escalate it to leadership to make a decision. Because it's not that it's immovable, it's that, like, hey, we're doing this thing, we'd never talked about or agreed to this thing, but maybe it makes enough sense, and with what we're finding out here, that this is something that we should consider doing. And so you can change your core, especially in concept and stuff. Like, those are the things you want to find out, to be like, hey, this actually makes sense to change, like, a core part of the vision, or expand upon the vision, or the core principles, or something like that, when you're trying to prove a lot of this stuff out and prototype, right? Because you're trying to find this stuff out in concept, or prototype level. Other studios would call it vertical slice. I have my opinions on vertical slice, because that's an old term in order to get to, like, sign off for investors. Whereas things have changed in the industry, especially with AI coming up as well too. Now, not to say that AI is taking over or anything like that. It's just kind of making stuff faster, for kind of, and changing kind of the process on how we do things to make games, right? It's not replacing anyone making games right now, even though some people would claim it would. So, and I think it maybe will eventually and stuff, in terms of, like, some repetitive tasks type of thing, which right now we try and use automation for those and stuff, but I think AI will take on a lot of those. But there's so much critical thinking and reactiveness and stuff like that AI just cannot do in our jobs and stuff, that there needs to be humans there. But can it be a tool for me to use to move faster and be more efficient? Sure, 100%. Anyway, so these core pillars and stuff, and when we talk about how it fits into the vision and the game design, it's meant to keep the team accountable. It's meant to keep production accountable as well too. And it's like, okay, well, the team is talking about this and it makes sense, and here's our case for it. Should we change this core principle then? Or, wait, you're right, this isn't a big enough concern and stuff, we should shelve this and table it and figure out how to solve this problem that's part of the core vision, because we know we can do it, type of thing, and we know we can solve it within that principle, right? So, or a solution to that principle, right? So, so that's really where it pays to have a clear understanding of what the overall design doc is, as well as what the vision is as well too. If you don't have a strong vision, if you don't have a strong GDD, how are you going to convey that? How are you going to know what good looks like in that aspect? You're really trying to find, like, the golden standard for your game, essentially, that you're trying to create. And so, and these principles and stuff kind of root ourselves in that as well too, in order to, when we're going through these things, help think and digest and even shelve things and stuff. I think that's the thing too, is people are like, I forget who, I think this was at Blizzard when I was there. Game design and concepts and stuff isn't just to tell you what a game is supposed to be. It's also supposed to tell you what it's not supposed to be as well either. Like, every game I've been a part of this, has done this and has to do this as well too. So I'll take this as a high level example here. Um, oh, I need to change my stream as well too. So uh, give me one sec. All right. This should be switched over now. So all right, cool. Let's see here. What was I talking about? I forget. We're talking about principles, vision. I was talking about designs, and oh yeah. Okay, so um, when we say that we want to create a feature for a game as well too, whether it's a gameplay feature or a social feature or a meta game feature, like sometimes leadership or people who haven't made games before or whatever is like, it shouldn't take that long. Like, these are the things that it just takes to make that feature and stuff. But I think the thing that people who are not close to executing on things as well too, and I would know because that is my specialty, is cross-functional teams making features and making multiple types of features at the same time with different teams to ship a product for given milestones, to public releases to players as well too. And so this has been a lot of my last 6 or 7 years in the game industry, is this and stuff. And so it's not just about making that feature or those features, but it's also making those features to do what it's not supposed to do either. And that's the same for design as well too. You're not just making the design for the game on what that thing is supposed to be, whether it's on paper or in the game, but it's also making it what it's not supposed to be as well too. Like the experiences you don't want the player to have, like, hey, I did this thing and I triggered this quest and stuff, but I was in a cutscene or whatever. So like, you may have made the thing, but now you need to make it to what it's not supposed to have an experience wise. You get what I'm saying? That could also be a bug as well too, and in some instances, but because my example is very broad stroke, but you kind of get what I'm saying here, right? Like, you're trying to also create it for what you don't want the user to experience as well too. And so sometimes it requires safeguards, sometimes it requires like critical bug fixes, sometimes it requires creating other pieces of technology or things as well too that are meant to prevent the user from experiencing these other types of things as well too. Like, being able to cancel queue or whatever and stuff. Like there needs to be mechanisms in place and stuff, which then require new tech or new UI or new states as well too. I've seen, or audio cues or whatever, in order to make sure that it encapsulates that entire experience that the player is and isn't supposed to experience. So, um, so yeah, it's always bigger than you think it is with that. Now, also talking broad stroke as well too, some of those things can be very small, and you account for that in terms of the work that it, like a senior engineer, artist, designer, implementer and stuff is really good at estimating out what they need to do to create both of those experiences, what they don't want the player to experience and what the feature or button or mechanic or whatever was designed to do, right? And how to implement that and how long it's going to take. Now, someone that's more junior or something may not know that, or maybe they've never done it before. And so it's like, I don't know, or whatever. So one thing we do here, and why I'm talking about this is because it goes to what we're talking about in the design doc here, and when we're talking about the high level aspects of what this game is going to be as well too. It's about doing the most risky things first so that you can mitigate that risk as well too, or at least investigating. Sometimes with engineering programmers wherever you're at in the world watching this, we call it different things, but they do the same thing, right? So for engineers, game engineers, platform engineers, whatever and stuff, if there's something where it's new technology, if it's I'm gonna do this as well too. Do the riskiest things first to mitigate risk. Investigate. So what I mean by this is some people will think like, oh, I'm just going to do the simple stuff first because I know how it's going to work. I can do it really quickly and stuff, and it's not going to be that bad. And so, and then I'll just do the hard stuff later, right? Don't do that. When you're making software, when you're making games or whatever and stuff, because you don't not know the fallout from this, and if they're also a good project manager or producer as well too, they're going to ask you to do this first as well too, because there could be unknowns. This could cause us to have to pivot. So it kind of goes into the lots of unknowns and stuff, but like, yeah, you do not know. It's literally a black box. You do not know what's in that black box. You do not know how big that black box is, and you need to define that black box of what goes in it, how big it is, what the color is, what the not necessarily the shape, how the edges are, like everything about that, because like if you don't know that and stuff, then it's a half baked, it could be a half baked piece of crap and stuff that you're putting in front of players, right? So you need to know the ins and outs of it, especially with tech is the most riskiest and stuff too. Like if there's something new with cloud hosting or AI is becoming a big thing, and it's like, hey, no one's ever done this before, type of thing. It's like I experienced this on my last project where, um, can I talk about it? Basically, what we were doing is we were um, creating. There was a game that we were trying to take into Web3, and um, it had never been done before at this scale. And so, but we were trying to use it as an experiment to understand if it could work for a Web3 market game type of thing. So, um, there were lots of aspects there in terms of how this works and how it scales and how do you make a Web 2 game become Web 3, and what does this look like in terms of an architecture and an interface, because you kind of have to marry the two together rather than just building a Web 3 game from scratch. Um, and so it's like, well, this maybe not that it's never been done, but we've never done it, or no one on this team has ever done it before, and so there were lots of unknowns that we had to do the riskiest stuff first so that we could. And for me, it's like, hey, this. We even saw some of this sometimes too, being like, hey, we've never done this before. This is the things we don't know. And so, like, when my CEO or my manager is coming to me and being like, how long is this going to take? We're trying to find that out. And some things you can utilize here is you can time box these things. You can be like, hey, we're going to investigate some teams call them a spike. Sometimes they call them investigations. I think there's a couple other names for them too, but those are the most common ones I've used. And so, but like sometimes investigations are time boxed. Sometimes being able to find solutions are time boxed as well too, being like, okay, I'm going to use this relevant to this example here because I've actually never used AI agents in a game and stuff, because and so like implementing that and all the implications of that, I have no clue. There's a lot of unknowns for me in terms of implementing something like that, or not just that, but designing for that. Like, I don't know the inputs and outputs for that. So inputs and outputs. And what I mean by this here is, for this, like, do they really need like an LLM? Is this more like a module that we could create separately to where we could control this and modify this and create parameters or templates or something like that? And what does an engineer need to know based upon those business requirements, design requirements, creative vision as well too, and the principles as well too that we're trying to get across? Because then they can convert those into, okay, we need this tech to support this requirement. We need these mechanisms or this user facing application or to be able to modify these things at any given time for an agent or something like. And then the good thing from that as well too would be like, do you want this to occur during the live game to where you can modify this and stuff? And it's like, crap, well, we didn't think about this. Can you actually do that? And they're like, I don't know. Or sometimes they will know and stuff, and it's just a matter of like modifying the game design to be like, yeah, that sounds really cool and stuff. That would be a really awesome to do for players, like on the fly type of thing, in a, especially if we want this to be a live service. We could now. I'll get to that in a sec here. Let me finish kind of this section here for the risk box here. So them engineers also being able to kind of understand the vision, the design principles, the business requirements, whatever, then they can actually turn around and ask you questions of what this thing is and is not as well too, because one, it then helps define it more, and two, they are themselves knowing what they need to investigate to help mitigate that risk as well too. So super valuable having those discussions, having that communication, and especially early in concept too, making sure that you're as much as possible as well too, if you don't have a producer or a project manager, that designer or those directors or whatever it may be and stuff are talking together, because they need to be able to talk to resolve these things. Now in a very small team and stuff, maybe they can be just be like, hey, I did this and I cranked it out and whatever, and so I didn't know if it fit into your game design, but I did it quick, or I investigated this because I thought it could be cool or whatever and stuff. And like if it's like, hey, I did this in like 3 or 4 hours and stuff, that's not so bad. But if it'd be like, I spent 2 months on this thing and it's cool now, oh, it doesn't fit in the creative vision. Okay, someone should have talked about that sooner, or kind of nipped that in the butt, essentially, to where now we just have 2 months of wasted time on something that didn't even matter, type of thing. And so you really have to be careful about those type of things and making sure that you're communicating those as well too. Now, if it's for a different side project or whatever, that's different and stuff. But if it's for the thing you're working on, especially as your team gets larger as well too, you want to make sure that you're working on the right things at the right time in priority order, right? So because also a lot of those things have dependencies as well too, where it's like, hey, we can't work on this game mechanic until we have the core loop, or we can't work on this we can't finish the core loop until we have these kind of basic building blocks in place to be able to finish the core loop and stuff. There's always kind of dependencies there, which is then you can't understand the flow until you have these other building blocks and stuff. And so there's always dependencies in this chain of events that's happening. So, and we'll get more into scheduling later and stuff once I start talking more about pre-production and production. You have less of that in concept here. Now, you still are going to have this and stuff to make sure that you're tracking a velocity and going forward, right, and stuff. Especially if you're actually doing prototyping in a game, you're going to be like, hey, we got to build this thing as part of the prototype, and this one's 80% done, and this one's 20% done, but we need to get further on this because it's blocking this other thing over here, right? All in terms of timing and dependencies. We'll talk about project planning and road mapping a little bit later, once we get some of the basis of this off the ground more. So I'm just actually going to put this here. I thought this was my brainstorming sheet. Because it was. And I'll get rid of these up here. Cool. All right. Awesome. So let's see. I know we talked briefly about MVP list of features. We talked here, what is core to Battlefield? Because we're wanting to base this in the Battlefield kind of universe here. And some could ask, like, what does that mean, type of thing. I think it's more about like the feel of Battlefield, squad play. The UI is very distinctive to Battlefield as well too. The presentation. I don't think we can translate squad play into our game because ours is going to be like isometric. It's going to be more not first person shooter, which is what Battlefield has been up until this point. Intense moments of gunplay, whatever and stuff like. So we're kind of expanding. We're changing the context of Battlefield as we know it, and stuff. And so we're kind of not redefining, but and this is exciting and scary too, which is maybe why they canned the RTS from EA LA when they were working on a strategy game for Battlefield, in Frostbite, I think. Maybe that's why they canned it, because it was too outside of the focus of what they wanted Battlefield to be, right? I don't know. And so here we're actually now going back into that and expanding on what is Battlefield type of thing. And so here we have new things that we could experiment with in terms of defining Battlefield. And so like, because here it's like, okay, we're not going to get to experience like gunplay like we're used to in a Battlefield game, right? I think there may be cool like gameplay moments and stuff, and I think this is something we really want to focus on. I think we really want to focus on this. Well, maybe not like the 32 players and stuff, because again, this is going to be more of like an RTS or mix of, maybe, I don't think we'll do base building and stuff, but there might be a base there that we spawn units from type of thing is kind of what I'm thinking there, but it's definitely going to be more than 32 per side. Maybe. Or maybe we want to get, I'm not sure yet. I'm still kind of leaving that open, but we do, I think, and maybe it's not all of this, maybe it's just this first part here. I think we still want to keep this. That's pretty core to Battlefield. Different options of kits. Yes. I think so. How do I want to mark these? Star it? Oh, it's going to underline the whole thing still. Okay. Fine. Be that way. I think we still want this. I don't think we're going to have squad play, but encouraging team play with co-op or real players. Okay. Intense moments of gunplay, we won't have that. So I'm actually going to take these back out because I realized we had it to the right here. So with air, armor, infantry, and maybe even let me see. I'm thinking like Medal of Honor Allied Airborne, because I think that concept was pretty cool. It was different. It was risky. It was innovative. You don't see a lot of things like that anymore. I liked Airborne for what it was. Like, it was a different take on entering and exiting combat. Could have been expanded upon. Yeah, I would have loved to see a second one, to be frankly honest, and improve on the mechanics of kind of the mixed results that Airborne got. I loved it for the innovation aspect and doing something different that was well too. Let me see. And so when I'm thinking about this last part here, infantry, air, combat, airdrops, armor, infantry, and maybe even naval. So like the World War II naval ships or something. And I don't think we'll have like naval battles, but I'm thinking of like kind of a scenario, especially like in the Pacific theater, where you had like battleships and stuff shoot on the beaches or locations and stuff on islands to like artillery shells or naval shells and stuff on certain areas to before they attack a objective type of thing. Or I think we had this in Medal of Honor Frontlines as well too, where we were attacking a U-boat dock or something like that. Like maybe there's an experimental warship or submarine that the Germans or Japanese were making at the end of World War II that were maybe that would be one of our objectives. So I think this would be something pretty cool in terms of that for the objectives. When I say kits here, I think it would be this relation. Based on veterancy, abilities, and equipment. So how, if we were to string this, if it's a persistent online universe and stuff, like I think that's a whole nother realm of complexity that we don't want to do for my first game, at least that I'm designing. That takes a lot of extra thought. I would have to think about that some more. I keep bringing it up and stuff, but I think I want this more like small scope, session based, but the sessions tie to each other type of thing. So, like, a session would be. I'm just trying to think how we keep that short and attack an objective as well too. Um, just trying to think. Because what could be short but compelling but in depth to some of the stuff we're talking. See, some of the stuff I'm thinking about here is like too in depth where it's not abiding by small times of gameplay for like 20 or 30 minutes. The things I'm thinking about here, or I'm talking about here in the core of our game, is stuff that would be like multiple hours, multiple days type of thing to finish. So it's kind of conflicting, butting heads with each other right now where it doesn't really make sense. But that's fine. Let's get this out on paper and stuff, and we'll have to make some changes. Not some changes, a lot of changes, I anticipate. Different ways to customize my soldiers and platoons. Yeah. All right. So this is core to Battlefield, right? Where I can customize how I look. Even in Battlefield 5, 2042. I don't know if you could do this in Battlefield 1943. Or in 42. Battlefield 2, I don't think you could either. I think it was just like a set. You might have been able to pick like between one or two, or maybe it was, oh, I think the classes, there was a different person there, but everyone looked the same for that class, I think, maybe. I don't really remember for Battlefield 2. I think Bad Company was like that too. There was a person that looked like the class that you were playing. I think they started introducing that in like Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4. I don't know if 2142 had that. But I think in Battlefield 3 and 4 they started introducing that where you could actually customize more how you looked. Battlefield 1 had that, I think, as well too, where you could actually customize how you looked. You could have battle paint on your face, different colors of that, start changing skins on your weapons, different stuff like that. So I would love that, but I actually don't think we're going to be seeing a lot of your player up close like that unless we do like a narrative driven story, which then it's like, okay, why do we have, is this a story that you can play with your friends and we're doing it for that aspect, which then it's like, okay, it's not a live service, which is fine. Which then it's like, okay, is this a premium game, or is this a game that you can still customize stuff in it for the, and you can buy customizations as well too, and those will show up in the cinematics, so it'll still be valuable to players, and it's customizing the cinematics for them, for how they customize their squad and stuff, but it's more of like a linear storyline experience. Could be all right. Make it a bit more cinematic. So we'd have like PCAP scenes and stuff like that, and mocap and all that. So I think that's another thing that we need to talk about. Session based. So in Helldivers 2, it is more because there is literally team based, and I think you can you have AI on your team in Helldivers 2? But basically that is team based PvE, right? I mean, friendly fire is on as well too, so in essence that could be PvP. No, that's bad. Don't be a bad friend or player. Don't kill your teammates. I know sometimes it happens. I've been there. I think that's part of the fun of the game is that friendly fire is on though. So same with PUBG. I've accidentally shot a teammate one too many times. But for like a new or a casual player and stuff, I can understand how that could be frustrating, right? So yeah, that's team based versus PvE, and you're doing objectives, and it's technically a live service. It's not narrative driven, I would say. It's kind of wrapped around a large narrative where it's like, hey, the automatons are attacking this sector and stuff. We need to repel them back to restore order in the world, or in this part of the galaxy, or whatever it may be. I forget the scope that they have of the game. I think it's a planet, right? So I don't think they're doing galaxies like Star Citizen or anything like that. So yeah, I wonder, because there's like, it's not session, or it's not an MMO. I guess the servers are more like MMO, but you can get on and play and then finish that mission and then be done and log off, right? And I really like how Helldivers does that, because yeah, I can go in, I can squad up if I want, or I can do this alone type of thing if I'm a badass and whatever. And I can go and attack these objectives, right? Maybe we do the same type of thing. Now, in my opinion, Helldivers 2 is a lot more fun playing with people. So we could do this like we did on Anthem, like we did on... I think they do this on Helldivers. Do you have to automatically match with someone on Helldivers? I forget. Because if you're not playing with friends, do you have to... I think you can close those off though as well too, right? At your control. So you could choose not to play with anyone and go in. So maybe we do that. I don't know. Or maybe this is just like Overwatch, Valorant, League of Legends, stuff like that, where it's like, hey, if you don't have 5 people on this team and stuff, you guys can't start a match. You can't start an objective together if you don't do this. Now that doesn't really feel good. I actually really love how Diablo does it, where and some other games do this as well too, but it's like when a new player joins the game and stuff like that, the minions of hell grow stronger, right? I really like that. Like, it's not just a audio cue, but it's a I think there's visuals to it too, because it shows up on screen as well too. And I think even the enemies have feedback if you're next to enemies when someone joins. The minions of hell grow stronger and stuff. I think there's like audio and visual feedback. There's the voice that's saying it, and then I think there's the visual cues on screen as well too. And so like we could have like an auto leveling, auto scaler like that as well too, where it's like, hey, someone has joined your game and stuff. The enemies are now harder, whether it's they have more abilities or they are just more bullet spongy type of thing, which really doesn't feel great and stuff as well too. Oh, I guess the other thing I was thinking about in terms of this is what will be core to our game development framework. Where were we talking? Oh, I think we were talking about this in the doc here. Was it? Oh, yeah. Let me see. So other things I was thinking about was cover system. I'm just putting this out here. This isn't going to be the final thing, but and probably shouldn't go in the executive summary either. Oh, I was just talking about it as well too, as part of this. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, so this right here is like Helldivers 2. This takes from Company of Heroes. Kind of like that. This would be kind of like, I don't know if it's like the Nemesis system. I forget how that works. I know that if you do something and stuff, they learn. Or do they learn? Or is it more of a reaction to how you play it, and then they... I don't remember how it works in Shadow of Mordor with the Nemesis system. So I don't know if this is related to that, but... That's the most prominent example. I have to go back and look at the Nemesis system design, or look at the game, I guess, as well too. It's been a long time since I played that game, so. I think the other big thing to call out here would be that I think Baldur's Gate had this as well too. Because like here, I really want the player to have benefits as well as consequences for their actions. Like, you are the hero or anti-hero or or I wouldn't say villain, but like you have agency in your story. You have agency in your gameplay, right? And we could be as harsh or not as I think Frostpunk 2 is very harsh on this. And I think that makes it very niche as well too for a type of game as well too. I don't know if I want to do like that aspect, because that's also just not fun as well either. And then it's like, okay, if you get in that endless cycle as well too, how do you ever get out of that as well too, especially if you're a newer player and you're learning things and then you're making the wrong decisions or bad decisions or being careless with your units or something like that and stuff. And it's like, how do you get out of that negative loop and stuff? There's got to be some positive to that. So I think we probably set a barrier and stuff to where it can't go below X, because that just feels bad as a player, and then they might just be like, screw this game, it sucks, I can never win, type of thing, or something like that. I know we talked about what else here? And I think the other thing here that's pretty cool as well too is there could be something here for everyone. So like maybe if you have 5 people in a game together, maybe someone is managing the resources and stuff like that at the base, and keeping the supply chain, and then another one's keeping the supply chain going to the front line, and the other one is making requisitions for units or for airstrikes or something like that. And so everyone might have a different type of role in taking the objective as well too, rather than just everyone managing their own resources and supply chain and requisitions and stuff like that, so they don't have to do everything. Maybe if there's multiple people in a game, then people could choose to do different roles or whatever and stuff. I don't know either. That gets a little complex as well too. But maybe that can maximize efficiency though as well too. I'm not really sure. That could be interesting. Or maybe we can make it dynamic enough to where someone could just do that if that's how they wanted their team structured. They could do that, or they could decide not to do that type of thing. That could be interesting. Yeah, there's every time I think about this, and I think it's good to be big and broad with these ideas and not leave anything off the table. But then once we start to define more, like, hey, we want this to be a smaller scope game, and hey, we want it to be maybe 20 to 30 minutes per game type of thing, well, then we start scope cutting, right? We need to cut stuff out. Games can always be big, right? And like, I think this is the problem that Halo had. We had expectations from existing players, but we also wanted to cater to a larger player base as well too. So it's like your scope just becomes crazy huge with that type of responsibility, which is why it was such a large project as well too, and expensive because of that. So there's just lots of expectations, and because it's what entry was it in the franchise? There's 4, 5, 6. I don't know if you count like the Halo Wars as part of that as well too, but many entries into the franchise later and stuff. That's the expectations you have for franchises like that. So it's a double-edged blade. But it's like, and so you can't cut out old things you've done because players may expect those, especially if it's a important thing like snipers and ADSs and scopes and co-op single player story and stuff like that. Like, we didn't have that at launch and players were pissed. So yeah, like yeah, it's and there's reasons for those. I can't go into those reasons, but those are the types of things you face in franchises and stuff like that versus brand new games. So or small indie games, or very small scope games, or even brand new games that are large scope and stuff. So you don't have to deal with those expectations because no one really knows what to expect. So did I spell this wrong? Balder. Oh, I did, I guess. Okay. So I think we have this here. This isn't all going to go in the executive summary, but I was just kind of... it kept going through my brain when we were talking about different aspects here, and I wanted to make sure I got it somewhere on the paper. So, all right. I think that we talked about this 30 to 40 minute core loop. Direct unit control, I don't think we're going to do this anymore. Oh, hold on. Some other things that we had thought about here. Yeah, I think we said that I wanted to do this. I think this is the last one I was going to write here. Oh, I already have that in 4. So I don't need that now. But even just these 5 things here that I'm talking about here, uh, like cover system is a big selling point for Company of Heroes, right? Like they kind of revolutionized cover system and the chances of that when you have good, medium, and no cover. Um, that was kind of the staple of their game mechanics and stuff like that. You have lots of stuff with different objectives, team-based objectives, whatever. Um, Overwatch comes to mind first with this because, especially people who just wanted to go, or even Battlefield and stuff, when you're playing for capture points or breakthrough or frontline, I think it's called in some battlefields, um, or even World in Conflict that we were talking about. One of the other streams as well too was like the tug of war as well too, which was where that whole game was based around. Like some people would just play for the kills. They would not play the objectives and they would lose the game because of that. Because you're playing for kills, which is not the objective. The objective is the objective. um, and so, and maybe that's why some people just love Fortnite, love Call of Duty, because they can get the kills and um, they can get the kills and they can get to the end. They can win and stuff if they get all the kills. So I think that's probably why Battle Royale does well. Um, I think MOBAs is a little bit of the objective thing where it's like you don't really have except for Heroes of the Storm. There you actually had objectives. If you played the objectives but you didn't do good on kills, you could win. Um, Whereas like League of Legends, there you had to be like play specifically and have the right builds and the right team comps and play with a team, which is kind of like playing the objective rather than just getting kills. Now, if you could just get kills left and right and stuff like Faker or something like that, yeah, like you could still probably win most of the time and help your team win as well too. But for the average player, or if you're matching against other players of your same competitive level, usually you had to play well as a team. So but in Overwatch and Battlefield sometimes too, people would sometimes just not play the objectives. So I'm thinking here of if I kill, like in Helldivers, it's like that too. You do have to do the objective, but if you don't kill, I don't think you could get by with not killing anyone and still be able to do the objective. It would be really hard to do the objective without killing anyone. If you're really good at killing, but you don't do the objective, you can't win though. But it just makes it easier, I guess. So I'm just thinking here, like if you're good at killing in this game, the enemy army, the enemy platoons, the enemy units, then you can complete the objective. In a lot of the cases, I'm actually thinking is that killing the objective is the objective. So that kind of satisfies that goal, right? Now, some of the stuff we're talking about now is kind of tied to, I wouldn't say human psychology and stuff, but it's the natural instinct that I see, especially because I play a lot of shooters. I play a lot of RTSs, whatever and stuff. I see the behavior in those games and good teams, they know how to do both. Um, they know how to kill and they know how to play the objectives, right? Bad teams, they don't know how to kill, they don't know how to play objectives. um, there's been some aspects where both teams are good at killing, um, but and if they're also both good at objectives as well too, um, it's a rough game all the way around, right? And I know that that's pretty obvious after I said that, right? But I can also see where some people have been bad at killing but good at objectives, and that wins the game as well too. Um, I'm just trying to think if they're bad at objectives. Yeah, that doesn't work as well either because if the yeah if at the same time I see this all the time. Uh, People who are good at killing on objective based games will never win because they're not playing the objective. That's not how you win the game. So, but yeah, if you're playing the objective but you're bad at killing and stuff, those people I've seen win. So, um, so either they're good at sneaking around the enemy or getting into the back line, whatever it may be and stuff. Um, that's how you do it. So, if you're not good at killing, or if you're getting killed by the enemy so much that it doesn't matter. So, but here I don't want this to necessarily be based on skill. It needs to be, and that's why I wanted the cover system in there. But I also don't know how much work that would be because here it seems like we're putting multiple games in one. To where I'm like, wow, is my scope gonna be blown out to hell? It seems like my scope is going to be really big with just these few objectives that I have here. These core principles that I have here. So the idea here is that we got to get it down to 3. Or we keep it at this and stuff for a full design. We pitch it and we'll have to do some investigation later because I actually don't know how much it would be. But my gut here right now is that this is bigger than we anticipated in terms of scope of a game. So, all right. Cool. We talked about a lot of different things. I think that, let's see here. I'm going to add some stuff in here. I'll put question marks next to that because I'm not sure if it will always be the case, but those are the ones that I'm thinking about right now. And so the first ones that I'm thinking about in terms of objectives here is, I think it's probably pretty important to include this as well too. Naval tank. Okay. Fictional. Okay. So, I think for this as well too, I would like these to be shorter, but I have a feeling, especially with team based, especially, but like here it's like, uh, yeah, I don't think we could do that in a multiplayer where it's like, hey, you save your spot and then, because if you don't load in with the same players and stuff, does it replace those as AI? Does, uh, what would that look like? Because that would be pretty cool if I could save a multiplayer game. That would be another feature. But that would be, I think, really, I wouldn't say impossible. It would be interesting to be able to do that because the goal here would be that, hey, guys, I gotta hop off and whatever. And it's like, okay, AI could just replace the guy who's leaving. And does that feel good to the team and stuff, even with an AI replacing that? Or does everything just kind of fall apart? The second thing as well too is, okay, like, hey, Bob's got to go. Him and his girlfriend are going on a date, whatever and stuff. Do we want to stop here, save our progress and stuff, and then when Bob is done with his date and stuff, do we want to hop back on and play, type of thing? Is there a point that we could save and stuff, and then it just saves a server in that state? And then we're kind of like splitting. It becomes less of Helldivers and more of kind of your own experience at that point, which then costs a lot for servers, which then costs a lot of money for the developer. Because then we're having to split that server as many times as people are saving it to themselves, right? Yeah, that could be a nightmare very quickly. To where if it's a MMO, which like a server is going to be like that anyway. But the thing is that everyone needs to see the same thing, right? So if you have this objective and you're playing it, the objectives could be different for you, but you have to, kind of like Helldivers 2, you have to finish that objective in order to complete it. If you fail it, it shows that you failed, and other players see that you have failed that objective as well too. Or you could replay that objective to try and pass it, and then therefore exterminate the automatons from this sector of the planet, type of thing, right? You couldn't just like pause mid-game. I don't think that works. It could be cool though, because that might be awesome. Game objectives are meant to be no longer than an hour. I know that's different from the 20 minutes I said earlier. So are meant to be, but like if we're doing more of the Helldiver setup, that's typically 45 minutes per an objective, depending on the objective, depending on the difficulty as well too. Here, if we're doing difficulty scaling, which is also something that I forgot to mention in the doc, that's from Diablo. Or is it hey, I'm on hard, even if I go in as a single player and I know I can do this and stuff, it just stays at hard. If there's 3 people that are joining me and I pick hard, it's still on hard type of thing. I don't really know what makes sense there. I could see the use for both, for either scenario. Because if I want it on hard and I get more reward for that, or it's just more challenging for me, I know it's going to be on hard all the way through, even if someone else joins me, which will ideally make it easier, right? So I could see the benefit to either, but I'll just list it down there for now. Okay. Direct unit control commander version. Act as a on the battlefield, hence battlefield. Am I delegating tasks and unit movement? Tasks, resources, loadouts, building, resources, supplies, loadouts, and special abilities on the battlefield. Should we allow a faster playback? So let's say if, I think in Company of Heroes 3 they introduced a pause strategy cam, or pause gameplay to strategize, to where I can see my units on the screen. I think, was it a top down or something, where I could strategize where the enemy was, pause it in frame in the campaign to think about my next moves, where my enemy is at, and how I'm going to flank, counterattack, defend different positions, etc., like that. And then I know a lot of RTSs as well too. Some people can think really fast as well too, so they can speed up the gameplay like to 1.2 times or 1.5 or even 2-3 times the speed to make it go faster. But how would you do that in something like Helldivers? Is everyone then seeing it move 2 to 3 times faster? Or because that wouldn't really make sense if I can control that on a client side, but everyone else is, guys, why aren't you this fast here? Like, I'm already doing this type of thing. Like, I don't know if that makes sense or if you could even do that. Helldivers doesn't have that as well either, but they're also, you're only controlling one character as well too. You're not controlling multiple units. Yeah. So originally I was going to say yes, but I think this is actually probably a no. But in order to make it faster, that would be able to cut it down to 30 minutes. So maybe we say here, if you are solo in this objective, yes, you can play a ton. Okay. Okay, so I think we talked about that. The other thing I want to talk about, I think it's actually here on the GDD, is we talked about the core loop. What would this look like? No. Gonna change this because I think I'm gonna take this from the perspective of if I'm a single player in this game or if I'm in a team, it doesn't matter the experience, it's going to be the same from my player perspective or my commander or whatever. So the experience is going to be pretty seamless when it comes to that, which I think is super important when you're playing with or without other people. So I think Diablo does this well. Helldivers does this well. Lots of other games as well too that are multiplayer have figured this out and do it pretty well, where it's like, hey, if I want to join your game, I can easily join on you, join your game session, help kill things with you, or even if I have to request that and stuff, getting them into your ship or to drop into your game as reinforcements type of thing, it is pretty seamless and stuff. And if they want to drop out because, hey, I have to go pick up the kids or whatever and stuff, they can easily drop out of the game. And Diablo does as well, where it's like, hey, if I lose connection or if I have to leave for a bit or whatever, they can go back to base and stuff and wait there, or they can exit the entire game session where, hey, the minions of hell have grown weaker type of thing, right? And they easily drop out and stuff, and the difficulty changes for you on the fly right there, right? And I think that's pretty seamless to be able to do that to with your friends, without your friends, with public players, with whatever and stuff, if they were to join your game session. So what I was getting at here, though, is so we would a button where I can host a game for other players. No. Presence? I don't know how to spell presence. Presence. Did I spell that right? That doesn't look right. Okay. I'm just going to skip to this part here because I want to think about the reward loop here as well too. Some games call this like for Anthem we called this end of, what was this? End of round, end of session, end of game screen. Some other games where there's like scoreboards and stuff, it'll be like results screen or end of round, EOR, different stuff like this. You see a lot of this in competitive games as well too. Because it'll show, like in Halo, in Battlefield, in Call of Duty, and PUBG, it'll show you like if you got like medals, if you got trophies, if you got rewards, if you got in-game rewards, what that may be. So here it's going to kind of have to be all of that, but it needs to be digestible to the player, right? Rewards. Objective. Success or mission. Mission success or failure. Reward. Units. Unites. And maybe nothing will happen if you fail it and stuff. You could just try it again. But then there's no agency there and it kind of disregards that. We may cut it anyway and stuff, but I want to keep it in there for now. mission success, failure, how these results affected your army, what which what is the Xbox one? It's Xbox game achievements, right? So this is kind of misleading. There's Steam achievements, there's Xbox achievements, there's PlayStation achievements. Do we do Switch too? Fine, I'll list it out. Okay. So like, and I could break this down even more too. Like this would be, I attacked a secondary objective and whatever, and it gave me this reward. Or, hey, we didn't go through some of our requisitions and stuff, and so these are available for next battle, type of thing. Just some examples right there. So like, again, that can give player agency to like, hey, I'll save this because I don't need it. I can maybe use it at a more critical time for a different objective, type of thing. So and I know that's not really a good reward, but I think it's, and maybe we don't put it in the reward section. Maybe that is just a, maybe something like, hey, maybe it's a reminder section here. I'm just kind of listening it out to bunch it together, and then we'll get into more of what makes sense later. I'm just putting it on paper right now as a loose level. So I know it may not feel good as a reward, being like, oh, I didn't use this. I had it already. You didn't use it, so congratulations. That kind of feels bad and stuff after I was thinking about it. But yeah, if that does not make sense, then of course we would change that type of thing. So you definitely want to remind the player that, hey, you didn't use these, so you have it for next time. But you may not want to frame it as a reward. You want to maybe just frame it as a reminder, like, hey, you will have these for next time because you don't use these. Here is your army requisitions update, or post battle update, or something like that. I don't know. Your, what did they call those after war or before the battle or whatever? The debriefs, post briefs. I forget what they are after the battle, but it could be that. So yeah, here I think I'll start here next time. on the core loops. So let me highlight this. I'm actually going to be done. I'm going to get some food as well to take my dog out and stuff. So I can tell because my throat is getting a little dry, a little scratchy and stuff, and I don't want to overdo myself here since I've been talking for 2.5 hours almost. Probably a little longer than that because I stopped the stream and started it up again. So, but yeah, I'll put some clips up here as well too, like on my socials. And my career coach says I need to start posting things on LinkedIn as well too from this. So that's also what I'm gonna do, which is a lot of it is to help people, but it's also to showcase as well too what I can do in the industry to people who may want to hire me as well too, whether it's consultant or on a contract basis or whatever. But it's also to showcase some of those as well too, kind of as a portfolio as well too. So I gotta get some of the stuff up on LinkedIn and my socials as well too, to clip some of these streams as well too, because no one's gonna look at 3 hours of content, especially if they're a hiring manager or someone to look to hire me as a consultant. So, or even as a full-time employee. So, anyway, I hope this was useful. If you're seeing this now, please feel free to ask your questions. You can ask it in the chat. You can hit me up on social media. The Real Vecchio is my all my links directory, I guess you could say. I'll make sure that that's working and it has everything there, but that should have all my social media stuff. So yeah, try and get in contact with me if you have a question, or if you're seeing this after even. Just reference that you saw my stream or you saw the recording of it, and you had some questions on stuff I talked about and I can elaborate, or if something didn't make sense or whatever. I know I've been doing this stuff for a long time, so something that makes sense to me and stuff, like I may be missing context for others who have not gone through this before, who are trying to learn this. So I'm happy to elaborate or explain things. But then if people are coming to me after and being like, hey, can you explain this more? I'll try and refer you to that previous thing that I explained, type of thing. So, but if I haven't, I'm more than happy to go into detail on a next stream, or you can even pay me to provide a personal recording to your question. Otherwise, I'll try and cover it on the next stream. So, so yeah, if there's questions, please let me know. And I'm happy to talk further in depth about different topics that you may have. So other than that, have a great rest of your day and weekend, and we'll talk to y'all later. Bye.